Special guest joining us at training camp, former Buffalo Bills running back Joe Cripps. Good to see you, Joe Cripps. I haven't seen you in a long time.
It's good to be here.
What brings you out here today to Bills camp?
Well, I mean, I always want to know what's going on up in Buffalo and what's happening with the Bills. I actually was up for a alumni event this weekend and a football camp this week, so it worked out good.
You went to the alumni.
How'd you play? Did you play golf? How'd it go?
I played a little golf. My golf game is not as good as my former football game, but I try.
I'm kind of with you on that. Yeah.
You're 5 years here, and I want to talk to you a lot about your career here in Buffalo. But before that, you came in as a second-round draft pick out of Auburn. Did you know anything at all about the Buffalo Bills when you were drafted here in 1980?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I knew that at the time, they would show a lot of pictures of the snow, on the fields, and
we still have it once in a while.
I know we still get that every night, and also with O.J. Simpson playing here, I was always kind of surprised, or I guess more astonished at the fact that he was able to gain as many yards as he would gain in those conditions.
Was Terry Miller still here when they drafted you, or
Terry Miller was still here? I think. Terry was released after
they drafted. They had big plans for you that year. Chuck Knox, Ground Chuck, right, the head coach.
Yep.
They had big plans for you, and they used you a lot. 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns in your first year.
Yeah, I was. I think I was pretty prepared. Coming from the SEC and playing at Auburn. I was still surprised at the success that I had. I thought I would be okay, but I mean, with Coach Knox and his philosophy, and the thing that surprised me more than anything my rookie year was the fact that I was used so much in the passing game.
Right.
I think my rookie year I caught like over 40 balls out of the backfield, which back then was kind of unusual.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you run into the fact that since OJ, you look back, were you ever compared to him? Did that become a problem back then? Because he was such an iconic figure at that time. You came in and you were your own guy, and didn't bother you at all?
No, totally.
None of that going on?
Yeah, I never felt any pressure or anything like that. I always looked at it as, everybody's got their own style. They got their own abilities. And I was always comfortable in my skin. I admired, I'm going to tell you the guys that I admired when I was kind of growing up was a guy named Johnny Rogers that played at Nebraska.
Nebraska? Went up and had a great career in Canada. Yeah, he was a great player.
At the time, I thought he was probably the most amazing runner that I had ever seen as far as making people miss. And I kind of patterned my game a little bit after him. And I've never seen anybody could do that, that kind of ability, with the exception of later on with that guy in Detroit.
Barry. He's a little different too.
Yeah, but he was a little different, but he still had those same kind of moves that he could make people miss. We used to say, I had a friend of mine, we should always talk about, hey, you have the ability to make a guy miss in a phone booth.
Right.
And that was that's kind of the player he was.
Joe Cripps, our guest, you came here in 1980, which I hope Bills fans remember was a really good, successful year. And it started with a bang, that victory over the Dolphins on opening day.
Exactly.
Did you think that was the way it went every week in Buffalo? Beat the Dolphins, tear down the goalposts, fans rush the field. That was crazy.
I was totally blown away by the reaction we got. First of all, coming from Alabama, I didn't know anything about the rivalry between the Bills and the Dolphins. And it just so happened that was the first game of my regular season. And we ended up winning the game, but I didn't realize that they had lost, I think it was like
the whole 70s.
10 years.
Yeah. Over the 70s.
Yeah, the 10 years, a decade of losses to them, twice a game. And we won that game, and I played decent. Didn't play great, played decent, but we won that game, and I remember the fans storming the field, and I was like, "What is going on? This is the first game.
We're 1-0.
One game. We won one game, and they're reacting like this. They tore the goalpost down."
There was a lot of great games in that '80 season, including a win over the eventual Super Bowl champion Oakland Raiders, I think, right?
Right.
A great win for the Bills. You played a pretty good role in that game, too.
Yeah, that was it was an early game. I think it was fourth or fifth game of the year. We were on a streak. Started out, we were undefeated for the first 5 or 6 games. And we played the Raiders at home. had a pretty good game against them, and we beat them. And ironically, you know, they end up winning the Super Bowl.
What?
Yeah, that was the game Pastorini was put out, and that's when Plunkett came in, and all of a sudden their season turned around because of a misfortune of an injury.
Yep, that's exactly right.
You
exactly
came here and played with Joe Ferguson in probably his 7th year in the league. He was really at the peak of his career when you got here as a rookie, right? And you benefited from that. You talked about all the passes you caught.
Yeah, I think that when I got here, Fergie, I don't really think prior that they were using the backside of the backfield that much. But he and I were able to get down, and we would isolate a lot of, getting me isolated on a linebacker and going deep. And I was surprised that I caught as many passes as I did, because at Auburn, I think in 4 years I had 11 catches.
Wow.
You had 11 in the first month of the season, right?
Yeah, I probably had 11 in a couple of games.
Right, yeah. And that was a little ahead of its time. Even back then, it was kind of a grounded out. Even
That's right.
You know, the slogan of the team was ground
Chuck. That's
and,
right.
You know, to start throwing the football like that was a little bit, I don't know, innovative, I guess is what you say.
It was. I think Chuck came in and he installed the shotgun formation, which was kind of new back then.
Yeah.
So we'd line up in the shotgun, and I'd get in the slot, and a lot of defenses didn't know how to handle it. So they put a big linebacker out there on me, and you know how that is. That's like stealing.
And that's really the evolution of the game is now. You find if they can't match up with you physically, you wear it out.
That's right.
You wear it out.
You make them adjust. If they don't adjust, you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I got one more guy to ask you about from that era, and I believe he was your position coach, Elijah Pitts, the late great Elijah Pitts. Really, many people say one of the best people they've ever come across in the game.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to have him as a position coach my first year. I mean, he basically gave me a lot of inside knowledge on how to play and how to be a professional. You know, I remember I was talking earlier today. He gave me one really, really important bit of information, advice, I guess you would say. He told me, he said, Joe, you're going to be a great runner. You're going to have a great career. He said, but if you really want it to go, you've got to protect the quarterback. So he told me right away, he said, everything else is good, but you got to be able to block. You got to protect that quarterback. You can't let the quarterback get hit. So I spent a lot of time working on technique to keep a guy who's 70 pounds heavier than me from getting to the quarterback.
Right.
And I had to figure out how to do it. And he didn't care how I did it. Sometimes I would pull the guy down on top of me. You know, he'd give me a plus because I accomplished my job. I kept him away from the quarterback.
Right.
So it just, little bits of information like that. And there were several other things too, but I was lucky to have him.
I was he was there when I got there. I got there in midway through '86. He was a fixture there as well, and was continuing to help all those guys. Rob Riddick came in later, then Thurman Thomas. Kenny Davis. The generations keep coming along, and the same guys can help them.
That's right.
And Eli was great.
And it's so important too to get off to that good start. To get off to a good start, to get your career started the right way. I mean, it makes a big difference because it gives you a little confidence.
Yeah, and if the guy, and I think Eli, he's right. If you get off and he can give you the one thing, the basics that you got to take care of first, then everything else comes along with it. And even today we see, and Devin Singletary, the new running back for the Buffalo Bills.
You're working on today.
Yeah, he got to step to the right guy.
Yeah.
It's not just about, you got to figure out how you're going to block this bigger guy, but which big guy is yours.
That's right.
Joe Cribbs is with us, Bills running back. So a couple of good years, some playoff appearances, and then the USFL comes into play, and you had some contract issues. That's 35 years ago now.
Yeah, it's amazing that I was last week I was talking to people, and it's still a topic of conversation. I can't believe after all this time we're still talking about it. It was a big move. I like to think that I was probably one of those guys that was a little bit responsible for free agency. I mean, it is what it is. Hindsight, you look back on it, and obviously, if I knew everything that was going to happen, I would maybe do some things differently. But at the time, I told someone, I said, at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. Sure. So
You don't-
I did.
You got to go with what you know now.
That's
yeah,
right.
That's exactly right.
That's right. Seemed like the right thing to do.
But we had your agent, Jerry Argovitz, on the show a couple of years ago, and he really signals that your move to the USFL is maybe the thing to kind of put the USL, pushed it forward, push it over the top. I mean, when a player of your caliber makes that move, people took notice. Oh, this league's for real now.
Well, I thought the league had the potential to be a long and healthy league. There were some decisions that were made later on that changed that,
Yeah.
but for a while there, it was great. I mean, it created more jobs for players, which is a good thing. When I look back at it, it gave guys another opportunity. If they didn't make it in the NFL, there was another avenue where they could earn a living. Still playing and practicing their craft, and hopefully get back to that point. So, I mean, in some ways, that's a good thing.
Le'Veon Bell sat out last year from the Steelers. Melvin Gordon's not reporting for a while.
Zeke Elliott's not reporting.
Running backs have problems still getting paid, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, it's one of those things, and I know that it's difficult for the fans to understand. It's just a career where your lifespan, your career lifespan is short, and you have to capitalize on it as best you can. Like I said, I mean, I know the fans probably want to see guys then. I know that. I mean, I talked to people today, and they said, man, when you left, it just took my heart, and I feel for people like that,
Yeah, but it's
Really
still,
do.
you got to do what's best for you and your
Yeah,
family, and that's
exactly.
Do you think there is a place for an alternate league? I mean, we had the AAF, it didn't make it. The USFL didn't make it. The WFL, the World Football League. Remember that back in the early 80s?
Yeah.
The XFL is coming up for a second shot at it. Is there a spot for that?
I don't personally. I think with the current situation as it is, with the NCAA and the NFL, I don't see it. I just don't see an outside league that could be successful. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm just one guy. But I just think that the system, I could see the system expanding, the current system expanding some kind of way, maybe adding more NFL teams or something like that. But I just don't see another league being able to be successful.
What about an 18-game schedule? That's kind of a hot topic with the CBA coming up for renegotiation.
Well, I think if you're gonna eliminate some of the preseason games and make some adjustments that way, I think that's something that could be worked out.
Right.
I mean, everybody's got to come to some kind of agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe, what are you up to now? You're at home in the Birmingham, Alabama area?
I've actually I just moved from Birmingham down to the Gulf Shore. I'm down in Daphne, Alabama now.
Where's that, by
and
Mobile? Or?
It's close. It's right across the bay from Mobile.
Oh, excellent.
Closer to the beaches. I'm actually trying to become one of those beach dwellers and kind of I guess really kind of be retired, so to speak.
You're too young to be retired.
I know.
What are you, 60?
61.
No, you're my age.
I'm a grandfather of
So
two.
am I.
So.
Yeah, you don't want to retire. Come on.
Yeah,
It's
but-
beautiful down there. We spend a
yeah.
week in Mobile at the Senior Bowl every year. I love it down
Oh
there.
yeah, I'm enjoying it. I haven't been down there but a couple of months now, but I am enjoying it, and it's a little different, but we're getting used to it down there, and professionally I do. I'm in the insurance and financial industry. I do that professionally, and help set up supplemental retirement plans. That's kind of what I do, but I can do that anywhere, and why not do it on the
beach?
On the beach.
Yeah. This is your first visit to Bill's Camp? You're not in Fredonia anymore. You can probably tell that, right?
Yeah, I know. I was my first year. I was in Niagara at Niagara University.
Wow.
Yeah, we
That's
had
a long
camp
time.
there. That's
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
That was my first year in 1980, and then they moved.
Fredonia.
We moved to Fredonia for the remainder of my career, at least. But this is great. I mean, I'm very impressed with the facilities here. I'm a little bit envious.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I could enjoy some of this stuff.
Give us an idea, if you can remember back, like I am, and I know I can. Give us two-a-days. How many days you go two-a-days? How much live contact was there compared to they have one practice every day.
Yeah.
They have a couple of days to get acclimated
Yeah.
before they put pads on. How was it? Do you remember your first training
I
camp?
remember the first week we actually had 3 practices. We'd have that morning practice, and then we
In a day,
times a day.
3 times a day.
Yeah, 3 times a day. So, you know, it's changed. The practices were extremely hard back then. I think it was basically as a weeding out process. They wanted to see who had it and who
And
didn't.
it was also you had to you kind of got in shape once you got there a little bit of that. Some guys
Yeah.
were you on the cusp of guys starting to get in shape before they showed up?
Yeah, I would always be in shape. I never I tried not to let myself get out of shape. I was
Right.
one of those guys that kind of like worked out year round, at least did something to keep me in some type of physical shape. Not game shape,
Right.
but you know, I didn't
You
put
didn't
on
gain 30.
Yeah, I didn't put on 30 pounds and,
Right.
and have to try to take it off. But you're right. I mean, a lot of guys would come in and be totally out of shape, and they'd have to, you know, work their way back into shape, and that's hard. That's hard on the body too.
3 practices a day will do it though.
Yeah. Do you follow the Bills much? Do you pay attention to NFL football at all?
I do a little bit. I mean, not as much as I would like to. It's, you know, they're you know, with the internet and access, you know, being able to get information, you kind of keep. But it's so much information out there. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to see what
Sift through it, yeah.
Yeah, hard to figure it
Right
out.
to it. Joe, great to catch up with you. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming on, man.
My
Great
pleasure.
seeing you.
Looking forward to this season.
Me too. Joe Cribbs with us, John Murphy, Steve Tasker. We're coming back with more One Bills Live from training camp on Buffalo Bills Radio.